Andy, are you sticking with us, or has duty called? Duty has called. Andy mentioned to me that he had to take a work phone call. So, Lee, do you have another 10 minutes or so? There's
no problem.
There's one topic I want to go over. Everything else I'm going to push to next week. We do have a pod next week, but I'm going to push it there. But Henrik Mkhitaryan and this whole Europa League Final thing. I haven't spoken to you personally about this yet, so I'm interested in your reaction. Obviously, I tend to be pretty outspoken when it comes to things like racism and anti-Semitism and homophobia, and anything that leaves people out in football or in life in general. I am against. I don't hide that. Call me a snowflake, whatever you want. That's what I am. I'm just a huge snowflake. But in this situation, we have a country that has been awarded the Europa League Final. A country that has in basically their government charter or their official government statements denies the right to exist of a neighboring country, of a people, has a mayor of Baku who 13 years ago said in Germany, hey, you guys know from the Nazis what we're trying to do here, right? Or thereabouts. And it just seems unbelievable to me. So I posted a poll on Twitter, on Arsenal America Supporters Club Facebook group, and on the Arsenal Away Boys Facebook group, which is mostly some pretty hardcore home and away traveling people from in the London or England area. The poll was, if Arsenal decided that given the inability to ensure Mkhitaryan's safety in Baku, if they decide to make a stand and fail to show up for the game in unified protest, assuming Chelsea does not join us, and therefore they win the Europa League by forfeit, assuming that nothing having to do with Man City and financial fair play would have us coming in the back door of the Champions League, even though that wouldn't even go into effect for a couple of years, and we basically automatically stay in the Europa League next year instead of having a chance to win the game and go in the Champions League. Do you support Arsenal in that, or do you feel critical of Arsenal in that? Before I give the results of the polls, Lee, tell me
if I'll be honest, if we didn't turn up, I don't think they'd put us in the Europa League next season either. I think there'd be, be massive consequences from that. The fact of the matter is, and this is my argument about things like that, if they can't sanction a player's safety, then they shouldn't have it there. It's as simple as that. Forget about the logistics of the place, how far it is to get, and all things like that. If they cannot, football is for the fans, football's for the players, football's for everybody. If you're stopping a player going to another country to play football, then there's something wrong. Now, Mike, you can say what you want about this. This happened in the group stages.
Yeah.
It happens in the group stages, and Arsenal relented and didn't take him. The fact they didn't take him is because they knew they could win the game without him. Let's be honest about that. Be brutally honest about it. They knew that they could do it.
That's true, and it's unfortunate because ultimately that set Arsenal's official stance as, we'll worry about this later, and we don't need to worry about this right now. And I think that was an oversight. I mean, again,
because it's put them in this position now.
Well, it's put them in a position where they can say, okay, well, now you want him there. Now it's a moral thing for you. And frankly, Arsenal's trapped themselves in a corner to where they can't really come out that way because
that's your problem. That's your problem.
And I said during the group stage, I said, we probably won't get back to the final, but we got as good of a chance as anybody to. And the fact that they're not saying anything then and just leaving him home because they don't need him there was a mistake.
My beef is, they should have done it then. Do it then. Look at it in the bigger picture. Go, well, we could drop these 3 points. We'll still qualify anyway. You know what I mean? And then when it comes to the final, we get to the final, we've got some real ammo.
Yeah.
But this moment in time, we've got no ammo. We could have said, look, if you can't let our player come and play in that game there, we'll forfeit this game. Right? You have the 3 points. Let the other team have the 3 points. We'll forfeit the game. Fine us or whatever. But you're telling us that our player's not safe. So if that player's not safe, nor all the other players. Now, comes to the final, exactly what you've said. They're going to turn around and say it was all right 6 months ago.
Yeah,
And that's
and let's be clear. The Azerbaijani FA, the football people are saying that he will be secure. That they're going to, and in fact, I read something just before the pod where they had come out and said, we will ensure his safety, not guarantee it. I don't know how you can guarantee.
Yeah, we can't guarantee anybody's safety, but what they're going to do is do everything in their possible power to make sure he's safe. But they weren't prepared to do that in the group stage.
No, and frankly, it's the football people that are saying that. It's not the government people that are saying that. And I, as far as I know, the government has other than saying, we'll give an exception visa for him to come if he wants to. They haven't done anything to raise the expectations that that he'll be a protected person there in the same way that any of the other players would be. So, to me, just with the official stance of it's diabolical that they got the game in the first place. But I do agree. I'm torn because can it be too late to make a moral stand? I don't think it can ever be too late to do it, but I think Arsenal has not helped themselves by and frankly they're not really making a stink about it. They're making a bigger stink about the travel for the supporters, which is another completely justifiable stance to take than they are about the Mkhitaryan thing. And I think they're probably not making a bigger deal about Mkhitaryan because they'd be a little hypocritical to do so right now.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? And I don't agree with what people are saying. If it was Aubameyang or it was Lacazette or it was Messi or Ronaldo, he's still a football player. He's still important to. I was saying earlier on. People say we could do that. The game against Valencia at home in at the Emirates, we was 2-1 down, and he came on and pushed us to get that third goal, which was vital. So he's going to be vital to us, whether he starts or he comes from the bench. So I do think that he's a footballer, and when they have a look at this, there was a potential chance we was going to get to the final. So why did they have it here? And the reason is, Mike, because it's all about someone's has got very, very rich on this decision. Someone, because it's oil money or whatever, someone's got very, very rich on bringing it to this cup final.
Yeah, and it's just the Qatar thing. Fredo mentions, Qatar is another one who, they're currently human rights violations all over the place. And, FIFA sold the World Cup to Qatar, Fredo says, and the word sold is very apropos. Good luck to any people.
In the middle of the season as well.
Yeah, and good luck to anyone that thinks that they want to travel to Qatar who is in the LGBTQ community, because they've basically come out and said that's not acceptable there. So, very, very strange decisions in the football world about rewarding countries with institutionalized isms. Just seems really, really odd to me. But the poll was interesting. Now, if your answer to the poll was, as many people did say, giving up Champions League is not worth Mkhitaryan. What if Mkhitaryan leaves in the summertime and we can, and he's not that good of a player anyway? You've missed the point of the poll altogether. It isn't about the player, and that's where I do say if Azerbaijan had a ban on Gabonese people or Uruguayan people instead of Armenian people, would you feel differently? And and they're like, yeah, well, it's not them, and so you're missing the point. It's about making a stand against oppressive feelings towards other governments or other people. But the poll was on Twitter, about 350 to 400 people voted. 67% of people would support Arsenal in making that decision. On Arsenal America, 93% of people said they would support Arsenal making that decision. And even on the kind of harder core Arsenal Away Boys Facebook group, it was 86% support. Now on Facebook, your name is attached to your vote, so I think we saw higher pro Arsenal votes there than on Twitter. But so a surprisingly large number of people said that they would support Arsenal sitting out the opportunity to be in the Champions League next year, to make a moral stand. It's an interesting debate. In the chat, lots of people saying they should move the final to Wembley. I've never seen UEFA or FIFA admit wrong on something and go back on that. So, I doubt that would happen. Andrew Blank says it's a shame an Armenian side didn't make the Europa League final. What would have happened then? That would have been fascinating. I mean, Armenian sides.
Great point. Great point. What would have happened?
I mean,
what would have happened?
If they were in the quarter, if they had even gotten, if there was an Armenian side, and I don't know if any Armenian sides even have a berth into the Europa League, even through
but it was great. It's a great point. What would happen then?
And I mean, once they made it through the group stages into the or even into the group stages, I think that would have been a conversation that would have had to have been had. Lots of great comments in the chat. It's an interesting topic. Obviously, within the next week or so, we'll learn whether anything is going to happen of the fan hardships, the travel, the allocations. The crowd for that game is going to be abominable. It's just good. The atmosphere starting at 11 p.m. That game, and having so few supporters of the actual team there, it's going to feel like a friendly, and it's unfortunate. It's not even going to feel like a friendly. It's going to feel like an exhibition game for corporate guests and oligarchs probably. But anyway, we're going to wrap it up. Sorry we didn't have a chance to get in any user questions. The only one that I can't push to next week is from Mike Hernandez, who said, "What can be done to fix your diabolical audio?" As a joke, there are certain podcast judges that feel that they are experienced enough in listening to podcasts that they can judge podcasts. And I will just say this: those who can do, those who can't judge. And I'm not talking about you, Lee. But our next pod next week, our final one of the regular season before the summer tour hits, is a spectacular. It is the 30th anniversary of Anfield '89, which everyone knows is the day I became a man. I was there. I've just decided, Lee, that I was there.
I was there, good on you.
I came to the decision today that I was there. And it's going to be half about Anfield '89. It's going to be half a preview of the Europa League Cup final, which is our chance to win our first European championship in 25 years since Copenhagen. And we're going to have a special guest on in that pod, a man who, we decided, how do we get somebody on the podcast who might be able to speak intelligibly about Anfield '89, and at the same time get someone else on who could speak intelligently about how it is to win a European Cup final. And so we decided, why not get one person who can speak to both? This gentleman has participated in both. He has lifted trophies after both, and he has scored goals in both. So we are very excited next Friday at 4 p.m. UK time, 11 a.m. Eastern, to welcome back onto the podcast Mr. Alan Smith. Smudge himself will be joining us to talk about things I love talking about and that he knows a little something about. And hopefully this time we won't have the video difficulties that we had last time where you had to just stare at me and Andy listening to Alan, but hopefully it'll be on video. So I will be tweeting out about that, but we want to have a lot of user questions on that podcast. We know you guys have a lot of things you'd like to ask him. So please do send those in by tweet, by email, DM me, but we want to make sure to include a lot of you and take some time out in the schedule for that. So looking forward to that. Lee, you ever held the company of Alan Smith?
I've never met Alan Smith, no. So,
he's literally the only Arsenal player since Herbert Chapman, or Arsenal player or manager that you've never met.
Yeah, he's one of the few that I haven't, to be honest. So she'll listen into that because I've got his book, funny enough. So I'm just going to start reading that.
Yeah,
so,
he was fantastic. Last time he was nice enough to hand deliver 3 books signed.
Yeah, I remember you saying. Yeah,
we auctioned them out for Gunners versus Cancer, which we're going to get started back up with in a couple of weeks. But just a great guy, and he's we love having him on.
Yeah, he got one over me there. He got one over me there, So
I gotta have something over you. I don't have the look. I don't even have the beard right now.
No. So yeah, one day hopefully I'll meet him. And everybody that's met him, you included, have always said what a nice guy he is. So listen, all those sort of players of that generation, from Ian Wright, Kevin, Paul Merson, Nigel Winterburn, they've all been when you've met them, they've all lived up to expectations. You know what I mean, like and beyond. So I'd imagine that Alan would be the same as well. Like, you know, so.
Yeah. Class individual. Looking forward to it.
Yep.
Be another class individual. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed it, like, you know. So
thanks for going on nearly 2 hours and
yeah,
without eating.
there you go.
With
Lucky
no
I ain't going out tonight, like, you know.
Yeah, and appreciate your time. Where can we find you? Or are you still? What's your closed season plan for same old Arsenal this season?
Well, I think we're going to have a little bit of a break. Going to have I think we've got one more after the Europa League, and then that'll be it. Then for a little while, have a little break. Maybe do a couple of things in between. Haven't made up their minds yet what we're going to do. But it's for me like a nice little. You know, when people turn around and say, "Oh, you're going to miss the football," I enjoy the summer. I enjoy it. You know, weekends where I'm not miserable because of the Arsenal. You know, so I enjoy my weekends.
And we're going to see you in July when you come over for the US tour, right?
Well, I'm in Turkey, and I for July,
that's right.
which I'd already booked up. You know, so it's going to be a bit difficult. But you know, I've got Vegas to look forward to in September. But you know, like take a bit of cricket in now, a bit of tennis.
You know who doesn't love turkey, by the way? And I don't mean the food. Mkhitaryan's not a big fan of turkey either, I don't think.
Is he not? Is he not?
No,
Ozil is like, apparently, like, you know. So,
yeah,
but you know, hopefully, you know, Istanbul, of course, is in. You know, if we win the Europa League, hopefully against Liverpool, by the way, you know. So in the European Super Cup, which would be nice. So
Hernandez's life mission is to meet Lee. When Mike and I met in New Orleans, he asked me to touch him because he knew that I had recently been with you. He wanted some of your musk. But anyway, thanks to the chat for joining us. You've been a great chat. Lots of you. Please, we have as many thumbs up as we have people still there. So if somehow it slipped through your fingers, please give us a thumbs up. Please follow us. Please share the word. We'd love to have a huge chat for next week. And follow Lee at Lee Mark Judges or Same Old Arsenal at Same Old AFC. And that's about it. It's been a great show. Thanks, Lee, for joining us. Thanks to the chat, and we'll see you next Friday. Come on, you Gooners.
Yes.
And here comes Andy with a good. What did you say?
Where are we picking off? Mkhitaryan? Is that? Like...
Yeah, we're done.
I know. See ya.
All right, see ya.
Bye, Andy.